Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. And today we're going to be talking about what the Philadelphia 76ers offseason plan should look like next season or this offseason after hiring head coach Nick Nurse to replace Doc Rivers after being eliminated by the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7. Philadelphia 76ers have a big offseason with a lot of free agents and a huge one in James Harden, Joel Embiid. What happens with Joel Embiid? I think Joel Embiid is going to be staying with the Philadelphia 76ers, but if James Harden isn't indeed if James Harden is indeed going to be leaving the Philadelphia 76ers, I think they need to bring in some help for Joel Embiid, and I don't think it's going to take a lot of help, because I think you could add in some really solid pieces that might not be as good as James Harden, and this Philadelphia team would still be really good, and we're going to go over that. So getting into it, James Harden, as a Rockets fan and being totally non-biased, I don't think James Harden's going to return to the Philadelphia 76ers. And if I already thought he wasn't going to return to the Philadelphia 76ers, this Nick Nurse hire just made me really certain of it. Nick Nurse is not a coach that is really a type of coach that is going to coach Harden. Doesn't really go with his playing style, and I don't think James Harden will re-sign there now, especially. And I don't think James Harden really wanted. I think the only way James Harden was going to probably re-sign with the Philadelphia 76ers if they gave him a 5-year, $200 million deal. I think that was the only way he was going to re-sign with Philly. I don't think Philly will give him a 200. I think maybe Philly would possibly offer 180, 185. But I don't really see Nick Nurse wanting to coach James Harden. So we're not going to really talk about James Harden because as a Rockets fan, non-biased, I think Harden wants to come back to Houston. I think ownership and management want James Harden to come back to Houston. So I think James Harden's coming back to Houston. And, we'll see what happens, though. But I'm going to get into what I think the Philadelphia 76ers offseason should look like after hiring Nick Nurse. And I don't think they're going to be re-signing James Harden. So let's get into it. Listen, you want your superstar MVP to be happy with James Harden leaving. James Harden and Joel Embiid had a great chemistry on the court. They're a really good duo. So if Harden's gone, they need someone to replace him. If they're available, if they can pay the money to James Harden, they can pay the money to somebody else. And that is why I think they should go after someone Nick Nurse is very familiar with. And I think the Sixers should sign Fred VanVleet of the Toronto Raptors, somebody Nick Nurse coached from when he went there into 2018, 2019, coached alongside him for some of the years. He came off the bench or he was the starting shooting guard, but over the last 2 seasons, he's sort of transformed to the starting point guard after Kyle Lowry has left the Toronto Raptors, and last 2 seasons been with the Miami Heat. But I mean, we've seen him he's been an all-star multiple times. I think only once, maybe multiple times. He's been an amazing player, an amazing shooter, and I think that should be the target for the that should be the target for the Philadelphia 76ers if James Harden's gone. And I think that is the guy that the Sixers pay with Harden leaving. If you can pay the money for Harden, you can pay the money for VanVleet. VanVleet is way less than Harden, and honestly, I think for the money VanVleet is getting compared to the money Harden wants, I think VanVleet's a better player. He's a really solid defender. He's a really good shooter. He's a really good player. I think Harden right now is a better player, but VanVleet is younger than Harden, way younger than Harden. And right now, I think it'd be better to sign VanVleet to a 5-year deal than it would be for James. And VanVleet jumps in the starting lineup. He's the new starting point guard for the Sixers. Maxey would be at the 2, or Maxey would be I guess I would probably say Maxey would be the point guard and VanVleet would be the shooting guard. And they'd have a really amazing lineup. A really amazing backcourt with Van Vliet and Maxey. I think with James Harden gone as well, I think Maxey would improve a lot and score more and shoot more shots and have a lot of more assist opportunities as well because Harden was having a lot of the assists for the Sixers, averaged 10.7 assists last season. So I think Maxey would have a lot more opportunities, not only scoring but assisting as well. So I think Maxey would play way better, even though Van Vliet would be coming into the lineup. Now, I've been hearing a lot of rumors about Tobias Harris. I think you keep him. With Harden gone, you're going to need some scoring. And Tobias, even though he's off and on, and sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad, he is still a good scorer. There's times when he is an amazing player and is an amazing scorer. I think he is a player the Sixers can keep. I think the only way Tobias would potentially get traded is if they pair Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris with first-round picks to land a superstar, which I think the only player I really think the Sixers would probably be willing to give Tyrese Maxey up for would probably be Damian Lillard, which I really don't see the Blazers giving up Damian Lillard. So I think Maxey is staying, and I think if Maxey is staying, I think Tobias Harris is staying. No one is really going to want to take on Tobias Harris's contract, especially with him being a free agent next year. I think the Sixers should just ultimately let that contract ride out and let him play another season with the Sixers and contribute offensively to their offense. So I think Tobias stays. You might move PJ, but I've heard some maybe potential rumors that PJ could get traded, but I really don't see the point of trading PJ Tucker of the 76ers. I don't think they're going to get much for PJ Tucker. So in that case, I really don't think they should trade PJ Tucker, but we'll see. I don't think it happens, but we'll see. But that's the starting lineup for the Sixers if James Harden leaves, with Nick Nurse coming in. The 1 would be Tyrese Maxey. The 2 would be Fred VanVleet. The 3, PJ Tucker. The 3, Tobias Harris. The 4, PJ Tucker. The 5, Joel Embiid. Then you got to go to off the bench. And that's where I have the Sixers making a trade for off the bench. I think they need to add shooting off the bench, a little bit of shooting, and probably adding a forward off the bench. Georgia Yang is a free agent. I don't see Georgia Yang coming back. With James Harden leaving, I don't really see Georgia Yang coming back. He loves playing with James Harden, and he's a free agent. I could see the Houston Rockets potentially target as well. Now, in that case, I think you call up the San Antonio Spurs, make a trade with them. I think this is a trade that would probably go down in this scenario. You send Jaden Springer point backup, or in this case, I guess he would be the backup point guard for the San Antonio Spurs, or just a reserve player. Jaden Springer, who's a solid player. I think he averaged 5 points and 4 assists last season. He's solid. Send him and Furkan Korkmaz, solid shooter, decent rotation player, decent defender, but not going to do much for the San Antonio Spurs. So send Korkmaz and Jaden Springer and their 2024 first-round pick, and realistically, that's going to be in the area of pick around 24 to 29 in that area. So a late first-round pick in 2024, most likely, depending on how the Sixers play, should be in the area of 20 to 28. And Furkan Korkmaz and Jaden Springer to the San Antonio Spurs for Doug McDermott, amazing shooter, good defender, and a really, really good forward, and would be a really good replacement for Georgia Yang. And Doug McDermott would come off the bench. And then for some other pieces off the bench, I think those are where you have to re-sign a couple guys. Shake Milton, he's a free agent. He was huge for the Sixers. James Harden missed, I think I saw something that Shake Milton averaged about, 17 points per game last season when Harden missed some time. James Harden missed some time last season, and when he did, Shake Milton was amazing for them. And I think that's a must re-signing for off the bench, and we'll see what happens. But I think he's another guy they need to bring back next year. And then another guy is Paul Reed. We saw him step up amazingly in Game 1 of these semifinals when they were without Joel Embiid. And, Montrezl Harrell's a free agent. He started off the season kind of as the backup center. Jaden McDaniels is a power forward, but can also play the center. He's a free agent. Dwayne Dedmon, who they traded, they didn't trade for him. They signed him. They signed Dwayne Dedmon after in the buyout market last year. He's a free agent. So they're going to have to bring one of their guys, if not sign another free agent for backup center. And I think instead of, bringing another free agent or re-signing another one, re-signing Montrezl Harrell or whatever, to bring in a backup center, I think Paul Reed should be the move. He's a little undersized for a center, but I think it would be the perfect fit. We saw him step up in the playoffs. He's young, and he's developing. I think he'd be a great re-sign for the Sixers. So in that case, here's what the rotation for the 76ers ends up looking like. Tyrese Maxey at the point guard, the shooting guard Fred VanVleet, the small forward Tobias Harris, the power forward PJ Tucker, the center Joel Embiid, the sixth man De'Anthony Melton, the seventh man Doug McDermott, the eighth man Shake Milton, the ninth man Paul Reed, and the 10th man Daniel House Jr. So it's a decent, I think, losing James Harden and then getting Fred VanVleet and Doug McDermott and re-signing Shake Milton would re-signing Shake. You're gonna have to pay him quite a little bit of money. Probably a guy you probably get $5 a year. My guessing. Trade for McDermott and then get VanVleet in free agency. It's a solid offseason re-signing Shake, signing VanVleet, and then making the trade for McDermott. I think it would be a really good team to coach for Nick Nurse, and we will see what happens. But that's the video. If you guys enjoyed them, or thoughts, and peace out.